Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Max from the Mama's Legacy Podcast, and I'm finally able to talk about my Denver Broncos with a smile on my face. And I'm joined here with a new friend of mine, Michael. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing well, and yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's a week one win. We'll obviously talk more, but first things first. I am honored to be on your podcast.
Hey, I love having you on, and I know you have one of yourself, the Air Raid Attack Podcast. Why don't you tell the fans a little bit about it?
Absolutely, Area Attack podcast. We're just a little over a year old, but hey, if you want to, it's unscripted, unfiltered, 100% sports on sports podcast. I'll give you the good, the bad, the ugly. I've had episodes in the past. Hey, I had to be mean to the Broncos, but listen to us on all major platforms, whether it's Google, iTunes, which is now Apple, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're probably on there. YouTube us, YouTube the podcast, Air Raid Attack Podcast, Twitter at Air Raid _ podcast, and Facebook Air Raid Attack Podcast.
Yeah, make sure you guys check them out. You guys know you get a little bit of a filter from me, not all the time, but the links will be in the description down below. And like I said, let's talk some Denver Broncos. We'll start off with the bad stuff. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Let's talk about the unfortunate stuff. Starting off, Ronald Darby, good cornerback. He's out with a hamstring injury till week 5, I believe. And Jerry Jeudy, this was the big one. He got the high ankle sprain. I know it says week 6, but I don't think he'll be 100% till about week 9 or something. I mean, what are your thoughts, unfortunately, on the injuries that took place?
Well, it's unfortunate. Week one, you always get the injuries, unfortunately, but especially the Darby. I know PS2, Patrick Surtain, the second gets his shot in week 2 against Jacksonville. I'm We'll see how that does. Of course, he phenomenal preseason. Of course, during camp, he bowled out. Now the lights are on. Of course, he's not. He's not away. He's not ashamed of playing in big games. Obviously at Alabama, but nonetheless, of course, losing Darby is going to hurt. But I do feel comfortable with PS2 in there. Judy's going to be an interesting one. I think this could be a hard one to fill. I mean, I know you got Tim Patrick. Alba O had a big game. Of course, you can still use Noah Fant. Maybe we'll see Kendall hitting in there. I don't really know. But nonetheless, of course, Eric Saubert saw some action. So nobody's obviously more passes to Cortland, more passes to KJ. You might see some Tim Patrick in there, but that one's going to hurt. I was really looking forward to Judy. And do we know by chance, is this the same ankle that he had issues with at Alabama by chance? I totally missed that one, so I'm not
I
for sure.
do believe so. I believe it is.
All right, that's a bummer. So, it's going to hurt us. I like what Bridgewater brought to the table, but losing Judy is going to be a bummer. Of course, we're crossing fingers. Cortland Sutton can stay healthy, and so who's coming off of the injury list from last year. So it'll be a bummer. I like our depth, but it's tough to replace Judy though.
It is really tough to replace Judy, and I think we're also crossing our fingers right now to hopefully that ankle isn't too big of a problem because Jerry Judy is one of the best route runners I've seen. I can't tell you on two hands better route runners than him. I think he's one of the best, and with an ankle injury, that really hurts your route running. That is
Yes.
the that is the big. Hopefully he's good. Jerry Jeudy, like I said, one of the best route runners I've seen. But the Broncos have some of the deepest receivers in the league. I love KJ Hamler. He does not get enough respect. And we saw him kind of ball against the Chargers last year in that comeback. I think KJ Hamler is really nasty and can develop into a great slot receiver. He can be an Amendola, prime Amendola. I think that's kind of like the best comparison I can give you. Noah Fant, I really want him to take that next step up. I love Noah Fant's game. I hope he can be a bit more consistent. I hope his blocking gets a little bit better, but I love Noah Fant and Tim Patrick. I'm actually pretty high on. I think he's a wild card. He can come in there and he can get you 75 yards one game, and then another game you look at him, he'll maybe get you 25. So I'm a bit worried about that. Cortland Sutton was only targeted 3 times in week 1, which was really a question mark for me. I think Sutton arguably is the best receiver on this team, and when he's only getting targeted 3 times a game, it's kind of a big question mark on your head, especially when he only ends up with 14 yards off of one catch. So really worried about that. But speaking of the receiving, we got to talk about the man throwing the ball, Teddy Bridgewater. He stepped up. Everybody was worried if he was going to be that guy, if he was going to be like he was in Carolina last year. But I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, he was sacked twice, but he could have been sacked about 6 times. He was getting out, he was moving around. He avoided, I think it was one play, he avoided like 2 sacks, threw the ball, completed it. Teddy Bridgewater looked nice out there. What were your initial thoughts on seeing Teddy Bridgewater out there for us?
Well, if all the new listeners out there, definitely give a past show on the Area Tech podcast. I was a Drew Lock guy, but I will say this: Teddy Bridgewater absolutely, and I agree 100%. He put on a show, completing I think it was 28 or 36 passes. He threw for 264, had a couple of touchdown passes. The most impressive thing to answer your question is the fact that he particularly played phenomenal under pressure. He was impressive. He avoided sacks on multiple times, a lot of dropbacks. He avoided sacks, completed a lot of handful of, I don't know, impressive throws on the outside of the pocket, including I think it was a third quarter touchdown to Albert O out of Missouri, the tight end out of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
But on I think it was a fourth or third down, something like that. But nonetheless, I was impressed. Again, I'm you nailed it. He could have been sacked. I think I counted at least 6, potentially 7 times, and but he played phenomenal. I liked what he brought to the table. Hopefully, he can get that second win at Jacksonville, which I feel comfortable with, of course. But no, he was impressive. Week 1, of course, got the game ball at the end of the game from Coach Fangio, and rightfully so. If it wasn't for him, I'm not going to sit there and say Drew would have lost it for us, but it might have been a different outcome, or at least a different showing, nonetheless. But no, Bridgewater played phenomenal, very impressive, and hey, I'm excited.
Well, I know you're a Drew Lock fan, and I know the Denver community was kind of 50-50 split on who they wanted starting week 1, and I think Teddy Bridgewater showed why he should have been
Yep.
starting. And I do love Drew Lock. I do believe that his ethic could be a bit better. I do like some Drew Lock though. But if Teddy Bridgewater can continue playing like this, I wouldn't mind watching Drew Lock watch him for a year. I'm not gonna complain too much about that. Teddy Bridgewater gave me hope. Von Miller was talking to him and he said he hasn't felt this way since 18 was there, and I felt the same way myself. I felt like maybe we could contend. I think we're at least a wild card team right now if we can continue this level of play up. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely, wild card. I mean, do I think there's a realistic and fantasy world? Would I love to see us win a division? Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. But right now, that's Kansas. That's Kansas City's until further notice. But nonetheless, definitely a wild card. I think we can get in that spot. You're looking at 7th, 6th, 5th seed, somewhere in that ball frame. I think we can make the wild card. The schedule's favorable. I know we got some tough games down the road. Jacksonville's is another winnable game that, in the past Broncos teams, it was always the winnable games that we always lost or find a way to lose, or we ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. We had that stupid interception that really, bad quarterback decision, whether it was from Locke or anybody else that played, from Brandon Allen to Joe Flacco and all that. So, I mean, in the past, so no, Bridgewater definitely brings a different dynamic to this ball club that we haven't seen in quite some time, even including when 18 was there. Bridgewater can run, he can pass. As we saw it last week against the Giants, his impressiveness throwing outside the pocket. I like our chances of wild card division. We're not there yet. Give us another year or two, presuming quarterback situation. But nonetheless, I think the wild card is definitely more realistic for us.
I do believe the realism there. But another thing we saw from Teddy Bridgewater is he was aggressive, and
Yes, it was.
and we also got to give a bunch of credit to the coaching staff right there. I mean, early on in the game, going for it on fourth down, we were 3 for 3 on fourth down conversions. The coaching staff, they went out there and they said, we want to win early, and that's exactly what we did. We were down, I believe, 3-7 at one point before the half, but I think we were up 10-3 before the end of the half, and we were nasty. We were aggressive. The coaching staff, you got to give it to them. Third down conversions, 7 for 15, I believe. And then again, the fourth down that sticks out to me, 3 for 3, big thing. We had 420 total offensive rushing yards, And I think we gotta give some credit to Melvin Gordon, somebody a lot of Denver fans had written off after the past season.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. First things first, the coaching staff. And, and I'll be honest with you. I think it shows a excuse me, it shows a lot of confidence in Vic Fangio and Coach Pat Shermer, what they have in Teddy Bridgewater. Like, hey, but let's see what this kid can do. A lot of confidence. It shows a lot of confidence, which I like that. If you don't have if you're continuously doing the 3 and outs or even the drives, the in and the punt, hey, I have nothing wrong with it going forward. It shows a lot of confidence in their quarterback. I like that. Melvin Gordon, broke out that 70-yard touchdown, which kind of opened the game wide open at that point. Javonte Williams played decent. I know he struggled at times against the front seven of the Giants, especially the first 50 minutes or so. But no, the running game was tough at times, but the Giants aggressively on the defensive line were aggressive and good to go. But now the running game, Melvin Gordon played, of course, the 7-yarder. That was great. But nonetheless, running game I still think is going to get better. I like that Javonte Williams kid out of North Carolina. I think that was a steal in the draft. And of course, that's his first game as a rook in real football. I get preseason football too, but real football. But nonetheless, a running game struggled, but enough to get the win.
Yeah, no, I mean, Melvin Gordon ended up with 9.2 average on a carry, but let's be honest, a lot of that was contributed by the 70-yard run he had.
Exactly.
But you can't shit on that too much. I mean, 101 yards from Melvin Gordon, like you said, kind of written off. A lot of Bronco fans were upset that we kept him and didn't keep I always forget his name. Lindsey. I was upset at for a little bit too, but you know what? Maybe we did the right thing. I do love Lindsey, but Melvin Gordon, he might prove me wrong this season. I was very much doubting him due to the fumbles problems he's had all there. I felt like he was more. It reminded me not to the full extent, but like when we signed Jamal Charles, it kind of reminded me of that his first
Yep.
year. I was like, uh oh.
Yep. I like that comparison. Very nice. I like that comparison.
No, thank you. They're both, Speedy Macs, but they both had fumbling problems with us, and that's what I was really nervous about. But one thing that caused a fumble last week was our defense. Danny Dimes did it again. I believe he has as many fumbles as he does career starts, and our Broncos defense attributed to that. And a big part of the pressure was Von Miller, somebody we haven't seen really play since 2019. 2 sacks in his first game back. How did you feel about that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. First off, he pancaked. I don't know who on the right tackle was that was, but he absolutely ran through him and pancaked him. I love seeing that. I don't know who that was, but very impressive. No, I get Vaughn has aged some. Of course, he's now become injury prone, and I know a lot of people are starting to think, is Von Miller done? Well, age wise, he potentially could be, but I liked what I saw on Sunday. I think Von Miller to me anyway, was extremely quick. And he looked like the old Von back in 15, the early years. And I think he's another player that has a lot to prove. Not so much prove, but to say, hey, I'm not done yet. I still got gas in my tank. He obviously wants to win. The frustration of the last 5 to 6 years has been on him, and obviously, as you mentioned, and I saw the clip on Twitter earlier today, is when he told Teddy, "Hey, this feels good. It hasn't happened since 18." So, no, I like what Vaughn did. Of course, I think he led the group with 6 total pressures, something like that. I know you mentioned 2 sacks. Of course, Shelby Harris, excuse me, and Draymond Jones, who I like out of Ohio State from a few years back, played pretty well. Defensive line wasn't too bad. Vaughn, I thought, was really played well. Looked quick. I like the pancake though. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, Von Miller played like you said. We haven't seen him play for a while, and he played pretty damn well. And you got to take into account Bradley Chubb was not playing this week 1, so he wasn't getting the help on the other side. It was they focused on Von Miller, and he still got 2 sacks. I found that amazing. I think Shelby Harris is also extremely underrated on this team. He reminds me a lot of Malik Jackson when we had him, and I love seeing Shelby Harris in that Broncos uniform. And speaking of players in a Broncos uniform, I think Kyle Phillip looks better in this shade of orange than the Bears. I do hope that we can keep him around. Kyle Fuller, I've been high on for the past couple years. Every time I play Madden franchise mode, I'm always taking him on my team. Uh, I love him to death, but there are some players on here that I believe will probably be gone after the season that are ready to go. I think Kareem Jackson's going to be out of here, which I'm upset about. I think
Do you think Bryce Callahan might be out of here?
yeah, we have tons of depth at that cornerback position. I think when we traded for Kyle Fuller, we had Darby, and now we got Surtain. I don't think there's really much of a need for Callahan.
Exactly.
I do. We have had a bunch of cornerbacks come in and out, though. I believe we had AJ Boye, a bunch of players coming in and out of this lineup, but I believe we finally found three cornerbacks that I can trust. I think Darby, Fuller, and Surtain are the three guys that we should keep rolling with. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I like him. Kyle Fuller played well. Um, there we go. Sorry, my phone went off. Kyle Fuller, I thought played well. I thought, excuse me, best performance defensively, at least a defensive back. Two players that I'm not trying to skip the question, but two players I thought played pretty well. Standout was your thoughts. And kind of twisted. I guess it's a question back to you as well as Alexander Johnson, of course. Joshy Jewell played well, I thought, in linebackers, but the defense, the secondary, I really love our secondary. I think depth. I guess we could see Bryce. I could see some trade value in Bryce Callahan or Kareem Jackson. At least try to get something out of nothing.
I agree with that. I think you should package Jackson and Callahan. You can throw them in there. Johnson had a pass defended, which I thought it was like pretty cool. But the thing is with the cornerbacks, like I mentioned, Kyle Fuller had two passes defended. Darby had one. You didn't see much of Callahan at all that game, unfortunately. I mean, he only had two combined tackles. Uh, Kareem Jackson, I like him a lot, but he also only had two tackles. He's definitely aging and he's going down that cliff. But overall, this Broncos defense, I think, is a top five in the league. I know that's kind of pushing it. I think it's more realistic to say 5 to 8, that position at this moment. I believe it will get better as the season goes on. But after week one, I think I'd rank us about 5 to 8. Where would you rank this Broncos defense as a whole?
I honestly think that probably definitely top 8. I don't see probably middle. If you want to be picking a number, probably 7, probably 8,
Mm.
somewhere in there, but probably top 8 for sure. I put him at number 7 if you want to say that. Look at 7, of course, for John Elway. But nonetheless, it's week one. I think this defense has a lot of potential. Hopefully we can get Bradley Chubb back and get that help for Vaughn on the outside. And I think this defense has a lot of potential. And Vic Fangio, um, I know he's on the hot seat. I know a lot of people think he's on the hot seat, and this could be his final year. But give him some time, but not give him some time, but give him this year. But nonetheless, I think this defense, regardless throughout the year, I think they can stay in the top 10. This defense is really, really good, and this is just week one. I mean, we're looking a lot of games ahead, and I think this defense can definitely be in top 10 all the year long.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe it could be top 10. And to kind of summarize my thoughts on this Broncos team, if the offense doesn't turn the ball over and they can get a touchdown here and there, I think we're definitely getting that wild card spot that we brought up earlier. I think so long as the offense can play turnover free football, obviously there's going to be mistakes and you're going to turn the ball over here and there. But if they can really limit those turnovers, I don't see too many teams in this league beating us. Uh, I'm happy with this team. I think we're definitely a wild card position,
Mm-hmm.
and I think if you put us in a lot of other divisions, we could win it. So I think the Broncos are going to be a sleeper for most fans, dark horse for some others, but for us, Broncos Nation, the mile high team, I definitely believe, and I believe all of us believe that we can be in the playoffs this year.
Well, absolutely. I think that's I think it's a realistic option. I think wild card, if you really wanted to say, hey, let's just get in the playoffs, I think the wild card is definitely the route to go first. We'll worry about the division down the road. But you know, top to bottom, this offense is this, if the offense can stay on the field, not force stupid turnovers, and not force anything dumb. Because years past, with Trevor, Simeon is always a few passes. He had his good games, but always those critical sacks, those critical interceptions that always kill the team, or the team fumbles, or we just do these, quick 3 and out that barely took 2 minutes, and the defense is right back on the field. And I felt bad for Vaughn and Chubb, and if you really want to go old school, Akib and all that. 'Cause, I mean, you can't. You can only blame the defense for so long. If you can't move the ball downfield, obviously your defense is going to continuously be tired. And I think even last year with Drew Lock, you had those goofy knucklehead plays, and he was either on tap or he just sucked, or Brandon Allen, whatever, but he was okay. And Paxton Lynch and Joe Flacco, and the list goes on and on. Case Keenum, the list goes on and on. Quarterback play, but I think this is the best team talent-wise, definitely since Super Bowl 50. And this team can easily make the playoffs. And I'll be honest with you, man. If they can get in the playoffs and get matched up perfectly, this team could. I'm not saying they're going to, but this team could easily make a run in the playoffs.
I definitely agree, and I want to give you a huge shout out for coming on. I really want you to come back on soon, and hopefully maybe I'll come on yours. I mean, if you allow me to, obviously that is. But
hey, the door is always open for you.
Hey, shoot me a text anytime, and I'll be there. But again, huge shout out you coming on. I intend for you to be on here a bit more, because it's hard to find a good Broncos fan out here nowadays on Twitter, and I'm a huge fan. Tuning your podcast more and more. And huge shout out, Air Raid Attack Podcast. Links will be in the description. And anything you want to wrap this up with?
Hey guys, just continue to listen, support the Mama's Legacy podcast. Of course, give Air Raid Attack Podcast a shout out, and just follow both sides, Air Raid Attack or Air Raid _podcast on Twitter. I might take a while just to respond back, but definitely I'm very interactive on there. And talk Broncos, we can talk Browns. I mean, I'm a Broncos fan, but we'll talk football any given time. But nonetheless, check us out, give us a listen, and we'll keep going.
Hey, definitely, man. Again, huge shout out to him. Links will be in the description. Make sure you guys go check him out. Subscribe to his channel. Follow his social media platforms. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel too, guys. Love you guys all. Continue the support, and I will see you guys in the next one.